We can send you. No, we can send you through Ox.
Mic check, mic check. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2. Are you getting there? Yes. Check, check, check.
ਮੋਹਨ ਸੁਰਗਾ ਮਛ ਪਿਆਲੇ ਗਾਵਨ ਤੁਧਨੋ ਰਤਨੋ ਪਾਏ ਤੇਰੇ 68 ਤੀਰਥ ਨਾਲੇ ਗਾਵਨ ਤੁਰਨੋ ਜੋਧ ਮਹਾਬਲ ਸੂਰਾ ਗਾਵਨ ਤੁਰਨੋ ਖਾਣੀ ਚਾਰੇ ਗਾਵਨ ਤੁਰਨੋ ਖੰਡ ਮੰਡਲ ਬ੍ਰਹਮੰਡਾ ਕਰ ਕਰ ਰੱਖੇ ਤੇਰੇ ਤਾਰੇ ਸੇਈ ਤੁਧਨੋ ਗਾਵਨ ਜੋਧ ਰੁਪਾਵਨ ਰਤੇ ਤੇਰੇ ਭਗਤ ਰਸਾਲੇ ਹੋਰ ਕੇਤੇ ਤੁਧਨੋ ਗਾਵਨ ਸੇ ਮੈਂ ਚਿਤਨ ਆਵਨ ਨਾਨਕ ਕਿਆ ਵਿਚਾਰੇ ਸੋਈ ਸੋਈ ਸਦਾ ਸਚ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਾਚਾ ਸਾਚੀ ਨਾਈ ਹੈਪੀ ਹੋਸੀ ਜਾਇ ਨ ਜਾਸੀ ਰਚਨਾ ਜਿਨ ਰਚਾਈ ਰੰਗੀ ਰੰਗੀ ਭਾਤੀ ਕਰ ਕਰ ਜਿਨਸੀ ਮਾਇਆ ਜਿਨੋ ਪਾਈ ਕਰ ਕਰ ਦੇਖੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਜੋ ਤਿਸ ਦੀ ਵਡਿਆਈ ਜੋ ਤਿਸ ਭਾਵੈ ਸੋਈ ਕਰਸੀ ਫਿਰ ਹੁਕਮ ਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਜਾਈ ਸੋ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੋ ਸ਼ਾਹ ਪਦ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਾਨਕ ਰਹਿਨ ਰਜਾਈ ਆਸਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਸੁਨ ਵੱਡਾ ਆਖੇ ਸਭ ਕੋਏ ਕਿਵਟ ਵੱਡਾ ਡੀਠਾ ਹੋਏ ਕੀਮਤ ਪਾਏ ਨਾ ਕਹਿਆ ਜਾਏ ਕਹਿਣੇ ਵਾਲੇ ਤੇਰੇ ਰਹਿ ਸਮਾਏ ਵੱਡੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਗਹਿਰ ਗੰਭੀਰਾ ਗੁਣੀ ਗਹੀਰਾ ਕੋਈ ਨ ਜਾਣੇ ਕੇਤਾ ਤੇਰਾ ਕੇਵਟ ਚੀਰਾ ਰਹਾਉ ਸਭ ਸੁਰਤੀ ਮਿਲ ਸੁਰਤ ਕਮਾਈ ਸਭ ਕੀਮਤ ਮਿਲ ਕੀਮਤ ਪਾਈ ਗਿਆਨੀ ਧਿਆਨੀ ਗੁਰ ਗੁਰਹਾਈ ਕਹਿ ਨ ਜਾਈ ਤੇਰੀ ਤੁਲ ਵਡਿਆਈ ਸਭ ਸਤ ਸਭ ਤਪ ਸਭ ਚੰਗਿਆਈਆਂ ਸਦਾ ਪੁਰਖਾਂ ਕੀਆਂ ਵਡਿਆਈਆਂ ਤੁਤਵਨ ਸਦੀ ਕਨੇ ਨਾ ਪਾਈਆ ਕਰਮ ਲੈ ਨਾਹੀ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਹਾਈਆ ਆਖਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਕਿਆ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ ਸਿਫਤੀ ਭਰੇ ਤੇਰੇ ਭੰਡਾਰਾ ਜਿਸ ਤੂੰ ਦੇ ਤਿਸੇ ਕਿਆ ਚਾਰਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਸੱਚ ਸਵਾਰਨਹਾਰਾ ਆਸਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਆਖਾਂ ਜੀਵਾ ਵਿਸਰੇ ਮਰ ਜਾਊ ਅਖਣੇ ਔਖਾ ਸਾਚਾ ਨਾਉ ਸਾਚੇ ਨਾਮ ਕੀ ਲਾਗੈ ਭੂਖ ਭੁਖੇ ਖਾਏ ਜਲ ਗੈ ਦੁਖ ਸੁਖਮ ਵਿਸਰੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਏ ਸਾਚਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਾਚੇ ਨਾਏ ਰਹਾਉ ਸਾਚੇ ਨਾਮ ਕੀ ਤਿਲ ਵਡਿਆਈ ਆਖਤ ਕੇ ਕੀਮਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਾਈ ਜੇ ਸਭ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਆਖਣ ਪਾਏ ਵੱਡਾ ਨ ਹੋਵੇ ਘਾਟ ਨ ਜਾਏ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਮਰੇ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਸੋਗ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਰਹੇ ਨਾ ਚੁੱਕੈ ਭੋਗ ਗੁਣ ਇਹੋ ਹੋਰ ਨਾਹੀ ਕੋਏ ਨਾ ਕੋ ਹੋਆ ਨਾ ਕੋ ਹੋਏ ਜੇਵੜੇ ਆਪ ਤੇਵੜ ਤੇਰੀ ਦਾਤ ਜਿਨ ਦਿਨ ਕਰਖੈ ਕੀਤੀ ਰਾਤ ਖਸਮ ਵਿਸਾਰੇ ਤੇ ਕਮ ਜਾਤ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਵੈ ਬਾਜ ਸਨਾਤ ਰਾਗ ਗੁਜਰੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਚੌਥਾ ਹਰ ਕੇ ਜਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਸਤਿਪੁਰਖਾ ਬਿਨੋ ਖਰੋ ਗੁਰ ਪਾਸ ਹਮ ਕੀਰੇ ਕਿਰਮ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਚਰਨਾਈ ਕਰ ਦਇਆ ਨਾਮ ਪ੍ਰਗਾਸ ਮੇਰੇ ਮੀਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਮੁਕੋ ਰਾਮ ਨਾਮ ਪ੍ਰਗਾਸ ਗੁਰਮਤਿ ਨਾਮ ਮੇਰਾ ਪ੍ਰਾਨ ਸਖਾਈ ਹਰ ਕੀਰਤ ਹਮਰੀ ਰਹਿ ਰਾਸ ਰਹਾਉ ਹਰ ਜਨ ਕੇਵੜ ਭਾਗ ਵਡੇਰੇ ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਹਰ ਸ਼ਰਦਾ ਹਰ ਪਿਆਸ ਹਰ ਹਰ ਨਾਮ ਲੈ ਤ੍ਰਿਪਤਾਸੈ ਮਿਲ ਸੰਗਤ ਗੁਣ ਪ੍ਰਗਾਸ ਜਿਨ ਹਰ 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 ਰਸ ਨਾਮ ਨ ਪਾਇਆ ਤੇ ਭਾਗਹੀਣ ਜੰਪਾਸ ਜੋ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਸ਼ਰਨ ਸੰਗਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏ ਤ੍ਰਿਗ ਜੀਵੈ ਤ੍ਰਿਗ ਜੀਵਾਸ ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਜਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਸੰਗਤ ਪਾਈ ਤਿਨ ਤੁਰ ਮਸਤਕ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਲੇਖਾਸ ਧਨ ਧਨ ਸਤ ਸੰਗਤ ਜਿਤ ਹਰ ਰਸ ਪਾਇਆ ਮਿਲ ਜਨ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਪ੍ਰਗਾਸ ਰਾਗ ਗੁਜਰੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾ ਕਾਹੇ ਰੇ ਮਨ ਚਿਤ ਵਹਿ ਉਦਮ ਜਾਂ ਆਹਰ ਹਰ ਜੀਉ ਪਰਿਆ ਸੈਲ ਪਥਰ ਮੈਂ ਜੰਤੂ ਪਾਏ ਤਾਂ ਕਰ ਜਿਕ ਆਗੇ ਕਰਤਰਿਆ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਾਧੋ ਜੀ ਸਤ ਸੰਗਤ ਮਲੇ ਸੋ ਤਰਿਆ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਪਰਮ ਪਦ ਪਾਇਆ ਸੁਖੇ ਕਾਸ਼ਟ ਹਰਿਆ ਰਹਾਉ ਜਨਨ ਪਿਤਾ ਲੋਕ ਸਤ ਬੰਤਾ ਕੋਈ ਨ ਕਿਸ ਕੀ ਧਰਿਆ ਸਿਰ ਸਿਰ ਰਜਕ ਸੰਬਾਹੇ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਕਾਹੇ ਮਨ ਪਕਰਿਆ ਊਡੇ ਊਡ ਆਵੈ ਕੋਸਾ ਤਿਸ ਪਾਛੈ ਬਚਰੇ ਸ਼ਰਿਆ ਤਿਨ ਕਉਣ ਖਲਾਵੈ ਕਉਣ ਚੁਗਾਵੈ ਮਨ ਮਹਿ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰਿਆ ਸਭ ਨਿਧਾਨ ਦਸ ਅਸ਼ਟ ਸਿਧਾਨ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਕਰ ਤਲ ਤਰਿਆ ਜਨ ਨਾਨਕ ਬਲ ਬਲ ਸਦ ਬਲ ਜਾਈਐ ਤੇਰਾ ਅੰਤ ਨ ਪਾਰਾ ਵਰਿਆ ਰਾਗ ਆਸਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਚੌਥਾ ਸੋ ਪੁਰਖ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਸੋ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰੰਜਨ ਹਰ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰੰਜਨ ਹਰ ਅਗਮਾ ਆਗਮ ਪਾਰਾ ਸਭ ਧਿਆਵਹਿ ਤੁਧ ਜੀ ਹਰ ਸੱਚੇ ਸਿਰਜਨਹਾਰਾ ਸਭ ਜੀ ਤੁਮਾਰੇ ਜੀ ਤੂੰ ਜੀਆਂ ਕਾ ਦਾਤਾਰਾ ਹਰ ਧਿਆਵੋ ਸੰਤੋ ਜੀ ਸਭ ਦੁਖ ਵਿਸਾਰਨਹਾਰਾ ਹਰ ਆਪੇ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਹਰ ਆਪੇ ਸੇਵਕ ਜੀ ਕਿਆ ਨਾਨਕ ਜੰਤ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ ਤੂੰ ਘਟ ਘਟ ਅੰਤਰ ਸਰਬ ਨਿਰੰਤਰ ਜੀ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਪੁਰਖ ਸਮਾਣਾ ਇਕ ਦਾਤੇ ਇਕ ਭਿਖਾਰੀ ਜੀ ਸਭ ਤੇਰੇ ਚੋਚ ਵਡਾਣਾ ਤੂੰ ਆਪੇ ਦਾਤਾ ਆਪੇ ਭੁਗਤਾ ਜੀ, ਹਾਂ ਤਦ ਬਿਨ ਅਵਰ ਨਾ ਜਾਣਾ। ਤੂੰ ਪਾਰ ਬ੍ਰਹਮ ਬੇਅੰਤ ਬੇਅੰਤ ਜੀ, ਤੇਰੇ ਕਿਆ ਗੁਣ ਆਖੋ ਖਾਣਾ। ਜੋ ਸੇਵਾ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਸੇਵਾ ਹੈ ਤੁਧ ਜੀ, ਜਿਨ ਨਾਨਕ ਤਨ ਕੁਰਬਾਨਾ। ਹਰ ਧਿਆਵਹਿ ਤੁਧ ਜੀ, ਸੇ ਜਨ ਜੁਗ ਮੈਂ ਸੁਖ ਵਾਸੀ। ਸੇ ਮੁਕਤ ਪਾਏ ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਧਿਆਇਆ ਜੀ, ਤਿਨ ਟੂਟੀ ਜਮ ਕੀ ਫਾਸੀ। ਜਿਨ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਧਿਆਇਆ ਜੀ, ਤਿਨ ਕਾ ਭਉ ਸਭ ਗਵਾਸੀ। ਜਿਨ ਸੇਵਿਆ ਮੇਰਾ ਹਰ ਜੀ, ਤੇ ਹਰ ਹਰ ਰੂਪ ਸਮਾਸੀ। ਸੇ ਧਨ ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਧਿਆਇਆ ਜੀ, ਜਿਨ ਨਾਨਕ ਤਿਨ ਬਲ ਜਾਸੀ। ਤੇਰੀ ਭਗਤ ਭੰਡਾਰ ਜੀ, ਕਰੇ ਬੇਅੰਤ ਬੇਅੰਤਾ। ਤੇਰੀ ਅਨੇਕ ਕਰੇ ਹਰ ਪੂਜਾ ਜੀ, ਤਪ ਤਾਪੇ ਜਪੇ ਬੇਅੰਤਾ। ਤੇਰੇ ਅਨੇਕ ਪੜੈ ਬਹੁ ਸਿਮਰਤ ਸਾਸਤ ਜੀ, ਕਰ ਕਿਰਿਆ ਖਟ ਕਰਮ ਕਰੰਤਾ। ਸੇ ਭਗਤ ਭਲੇ ਜਿਨ ਨਾਨਕ ਜੀ, ਜੋ ਭਾਵ ਹੈ ਮੇਰੇ ਹਰ ਭਗਵੰਤਾ। ਤੂੰ ਆਦਿ ਪੁਰਖ ਅਪਰੰਪਰ ਕਰਤਾ ਜੀ, ਤੁਧ ਜੇਵੜ ਅਵਰ ਨ ਕੋਈ। ਤੂੰ ਜੁਗ ਜੁਗ ਏਕੋ ਸਦਾ ਸਦਾ ਤੂੰ ਏਕੋ ਜੀ। ਤੂੰ ਨਿਸ਼ਚਲ ਕਰਤਾ ਸੋਈ, ਤੁਧ ਆਪੇ ਭਾਵੈ ਸੋਈ ਵਰਤੈ ਜੀ। ਤੂੰ ਆਪੇ ਕਰੇ ਸੋ ਹੋਈ, ਤੁਧ ਆਪੇ ਸ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਟ ਸਭ ਪਾਈ ਜੀ। ਤੁਧ ਆਪੇ ਸਿਰਜ ਸਭ ਗੋਈ, ਜਨ ਨਾਨਕ ਗੁਣ ਗਾਵੇ ਕਰਤੇ ਕੇ ਜੀ। ਜੋ ਸਭ ਸੇ ਕਾਜਾ ਨੋਈ, ਹਾਸਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਚੌਥਾ। ਤੂੰ ਕਰਤਾ ਸਚਿਆਰ ਮੈਟਾ ਸਾਈ, ਜੋ ਤੂੰ ਭਾਵੈ ਸੋਈ ਥੀਸੀ। ਜੋ ਤੂੰ ਦੇ ਸੋਈ ਹਮ ਪਾਈ, ਰਹਾਉ ਸਭ ਤੇਰੀ ਤੂੰ ਸਭਨੀ ਧਿਆਇਆ। ਜਿਸਨੂੰ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰੇ ਹਿਤ ਨਾਮ ਰਤਨ ਪਾਇਆ। ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਲਾਦਾ ਮਨ ਮੁਖ ਗਵਾਇਆ, ਤੁਧਾ ਵਿਛੋੜਿਆ ਆਪ ਮਿਲਾਇਆ। ਤੂੰ ਦਰਿਆਉ ਸਭ ਤੁਝ ਹੀ ਮਾਹੇ, ਤੁਝ ਬਿਨ ਦੂਜਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਾਹੇ। ਜੀ ਜੰਤ ਸਭ ਤੇਰਾ ਖੇਲ, ਵਿਣਜੋਗ ਮਿਲ ਵਿਛੜਿਆ ਸੰਜੋਗੀ ਮੇਲ। ਜਿਸਨੂੰ ਤੂੰ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਸੋਈ ਜਨ ਜਾਣੈ, ਹਰ ਗੁਣ ਸਦ ਹੀ ਆਖੋ ਖਾਣੈ। ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਸੇਵਿਆ ਤਿਨ ਸੁਖ ਪਾਇਆ, ਸਹਿਜੇ ਹੀ ਹਰ ਨਾਮ ਸਮਾਇਆ। ਤੂੰ ਆਪੇ ਕਰਤਾ ਤੇਰਾ ਕੀਆ ਸਭ ਹੋਏ, ਤੁਧ ਬਿਨ ਦੂਜਾ ਅਵਰ ਨਾ ਕੋਏ। ਤੂੰ ਕਰ ਕਰ ਵੇਖਹਿ ਜਾਣੈ ਸੋਏ, ਜਨ ਨਾਨਕ ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਪ੍ਰਗਟ ਹੋਏ। ਆਸਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ। ਤਿਤ ਸਰਬ ਰੁੜੈ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਨਿਵਾਸਾ, ਪਾਣੀ ਪਾਵਕ ਤਨ ਹੈ ਕੀਆ। ਪੰਕਜ ਮੋਹ ਪਗਨੀ ਚਾਲੈ, ਹਮ ਦੇਖਾ ਤਹ ਡੂਬੀਅਲੇ। ਮਨ ਏਕ ਨਾ ਚੇਤਸ ਮੂੜ ਮਨਾ, ਹਰ ਬਿਸਰਤ ਤੇਰੇ ਗੁਣ ਗਲਿਆ। ਰਹਾਉ ਨਾਹੋ ਜਤੀ ਸਤੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੜਿਆ, ਮੂਰਖ ਮੁਗਦਾ ਜਨਮ ਪਾਇਆ। ਪਨਵੰਤ ਨਾਨਕ ਤਿਨ ਕੀ ਸ਼ਰਨਾ, ਜਿਨ ਤੂੰ ਨਾਹੀ ਵਿਸਰਿਆ। ਆਸਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾ। ਪਈ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਮਾਨੁਖ ਦੇ ਹਰੀਆ, ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਮਿਲਨ ਕੀ ਤੇਰੀ ਬਰੀਆ। ਅਵਰ ਕਾਜ ਤੇਰੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਾਮ, ਮਿਲ ਸਾਰ ਸੰਗਤ ਭਜ ਕੇਵਲ ਨਾਮ। ਸਰੰਜਾਮ ਲਾਗ ਭਵ ਜਲ ਤਰਨ ਕੈ, ਜਨਮ ਬਿਰਥਾ ਜਾਤ ਰੰਗ ਮਾਇਆ ਕੈ। ਰਹਾਉ ਜਪ ਤਪ ਸੰਜਮ ਧਰਮ ਨਾ ਕਮਾਇਆ, ਸੇਵਾ ਸਾਧ ਨਾ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਹਰ ਰਾਇਆ। ਕਹੋ ਨਾਨਕ ਹਮ ਨੀਚ ਕਰਮ, ਸ਼ਰਨ ਪਰੇ ਕੀ ਰਾਖੋ ਸ਼ਰਮਾ। ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ। ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀ ਦਸਵੀਂ ਕਵਿਓ ਬਾਚ, ਬੇਨਤੀ ਚੌਪਈ। ਹਮਰੀ ਕਰੋ ਹਾਥ ਤੇ ਰਛਾ, ਪੂਰਨ ਹੋਏ ਚਿਤ ਕੀ ਇੱਛਾ। ਤਬ ਚਰਨਨ ਮਨ ਰਹੇ ਹਮਾਰਾ, ਆਪਣਾ ਜਾਨ ਕਰੋ ਪ੍ਰਤਪਾਰਾ। ਹਮਰੇ ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਸਬੈ ਤੁਮ ਕਾਬਹੋ, ਆਪ ਹਾਥ ਦੇ ਮੋਹਿ ਬਚਾਵਹੋ। ਸੁਖੀ ਬਸੈ ਮੋਰੋ ਪਰਵਾਰਾ, ਸੇਵਕ ਸਿੱਖ ਸਬੈ ਕਰਤਾਰਾ। ਮੋਰ ਰਛਾ ਨਿਜ ਕਰਦੇ ਕਰੀਐ, ਸਭ ਬੈਰਨ ਕੋ ਆਜ ਸੰਗਰੀਐ। पूर्ण होए हमारी आशा, तोर भजन की रहे प्यासा। तुम्हें छोड़ कोई अवर ना त्याऊं, जो बर चाहूं सो तुम ते पाऊं। सेवक सिख हमारे तारी है, चुन चुन सत्र हमारे मारी है। आपा दे मुझे अबरिया, मन काल का त्रासन वरी है। हुजू सदा हमारे पछा, श्री अस तुझ करियो रक्षा। राख लिहो मोहि राखन हारे, साहिब संत सहाय प्यारे। दीन बंद दुष्टन के हंता, तुम हो पुरी चित्र दस कंता। काल पाए ब्रह्मा बपतरा, काल पाए शिव जी अवतरा। काल पाए कर विष्णु प्रकाशा, सकल काल का किया तमाशा। जवन काल जोगी शिव कियो, वेद राय ब्रह्मा जो थियो। जवन काल सब जगत बनायो, देव दैंत जछन उपजायो। आद अंत एके अवतारा, सोई गुरु समझियो हमारा। नमस्कार तिसहि को हमारी, सगल प्रजा जन आप सवारी। शिवगुण को शिवगुण सुख दियो, सतगुण को पल मोह बद कियो। कड़ कड़ के अंतर की जानत, भले बुरे की पीर पछानत। चीटी ते कुंचर अस्तूला, सब पर कृपा दृष्ट कर फूला। संतन दुख पाए ते दुखी, सुख पाए साधन के सुखी। ਏਕ ਏਕ ਕੀ ਪੀਰ ਪਛਾਨੈ, ਘਟ ਘਟ ਕੇ ਪਰ ਪਟ ਕੀ ਜਾਣੈ। ਜਬਤ ਕਰਖ ਕਰਾ ਕਰਤਾਰਾ, ਕਰਿਆ ਤਰਤ ਤਬ ਦੇਹ ਅਪਾਰਾ। ਜਬ ਕਰਖ ਕਰਤੁ ਕਬਹੂ, ਤੁਮ ਮੈਂ ਮਿਲਤ ਦੇਹ ਤਰ ਸਭਹੂ। ਜੇਤੇ ਬਤਨ ਸ੍ਰੇਠ ਸਭ ਧਾਰੇ, ਆਪ ਆਪਣੀ ਬੂਝ ਉਚਾਰੇ। ਤੁਮ ਸਭ ਹੀ ਤੇ ਰਹਿਤ ਨਿਰਾਲਮ, ਜਾਣਤ ਵੇਦ ਭੇਦ ਅਰ ਆਲਮ। ਨਿਰੰਕਾਰ ਨਿਰਭਕਾਰ ਨਿਰਲੰਭ, ਆਦ ਅਨੀਲ ਅਨਾਦ ਸੰਭ। ਤਾਂ ਕਾ ਮੂੜ ਚਾਰਤ ਭੇਦਾ, ਜਾਂ ਕੋ ਪੇ ਨ ਪਾਤ ਵੇਦਾ। ਤਾਂ ਕੋ ਕਰ ਪਾਹਨ ਅਨਮਾਨਤ, ਮਹਾ ਮੂੜ ਕਛ ਭੇਦ ਨ ਜਾਣਤ। ਮਹਾਦੇਵ ਕੋ ਕਹਿਤ ਸਦਾ ਛੇਵ, ਨਿਰੰਕਾਰ ਕਾ ਚਿੰਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੇਵ। ਆਪ ਆਪਣੀ ਬੁਧ ਹੈ ਜੇਤੀ, ਬਰਨਤ ਭਿੰਨ ਭਿੰਨ ਤੋਹਿ ਤੇਤੀ। ਤੁਮਰਾ ਲਖਾ ਨ ਜਾਏ ਪਸਾਰਾ, ਕਹਿ ਬਿਰ ਸਜਾ ਪ੍ਰਥਮ ਸੰਸਾਰਾ। ਏਕੇ ਰੂਪ ਅਨੂਪ ਸਰੂਪਾ, ਰੰਗ ਪਇਓ ਰਾਵ ਕਹੀ ਪੂਪਾ। ਅੰਡਜ ਜੇਰਜ ਸੇਤਰ ਕੀਨੀ, ਉਦਪੁਜ ਖਾਨ ਬਹਰਚ ਦੀਨੀ। ਕਹੂੰ ਫੂਲ ਰਾਜਾ ਹਵੈ ਬੈਠਾ, ਕਹੂੰ ਸੁੰਡ ਭਇਓ ਸ਼ੰਕਰ ਇਕੱਠਾ। ਸਗਰੀ ਸ੍ਰਿਗਟ ਦਿਖਾਏ ਚੰਪਾਵ, ਆਦ ਜੁਗਾਦ ਸਰੂਪ ਸਜੰਪਾਵ। ਅਵਰਛਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਤੁਮ ਕਰੋ, ਸੇਖੋ ਬਾਰ ਸਿਖ ਸੰਗਰੋ। ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਜਿਤੇ ਉਠਵਤ ਉਤਪਾਤਾ, ਸਕਲ ਮਲੇਸ਼ ਕਰੋ ਰਨ ਕਾਤਾ। ਜੇ ਅਸਤੁਜ ਤਵ ਸ਼ਰਨੀ ਪਰੇ, ਤਿਨ ਕੈ ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਦੁਗਤ ਹਵੈ ਮਰੇ। ਪੁਰਖ ਜਮਨ ਪਗ ਪਰੇ ਤਿਹਾਰੇ, ਤਿਨ ਕੈ ਤੁਮ ਸੰਕਟ ਸਭ ਟਾਰੇ। ਜੋ ਕਲ ਕੋ ਇਕ ਬਾਰ ਧਿਆਏ ਹੈ, ਤਾਂ ਕੇ ਕਾਲ ਨਿਕਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏ ਹੈ। ਰਛਾ ਹੋਏ ਤਾਹੇ ਸੋ ਕਾਲਾ, ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਰਸ਼ਟ ਟਰੇ ਤਿਤ ਕਾਲਾ। ਕਿਰਪਾ ਦ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਟ ਤਨ ਜਾਏ ਨ ਹਰਹੂ, ਤਾਂ ਕੇ ਤਾਪ ਤਨਕ ਮੈਂ ਹਰਹੂ। ਰਿੱਧ ਸਿਧ ਕਰਮ ਸਭ ਹੋਈ, ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਸ਼ਾਹ ਸ਼ਵ ਸ਼ਕੀ ਨ ਕੋਈ। ਏਕ ਬਾਰ ਜੰਤੁ ਮੈਂ ਸੁਵਾਰਾ, ਕਾਲ ਫਾਂਸ ਤੇ ਤਾਹੇ ਉਬਾਰਾ। ਜਿੰਦਰ ਨਾਮ ਤਿਹਾਰੋ ਕਾਹਾ, ਦਾਰਦ ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਦੋਖ ਤੇ ਰਾਹਾ। ਖੜਕ ਕੇਤ ਮੈਂ ਸ਼ਰਨ ਤਿਹਾਰੀ, ਆਪ ਹਾਥ ਦੇ ਲਿਹੋ ਉਬਾਰੀ। ਸਰਬ ਠੋਰ ਮੋਹ ਸਹਾਈ, ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਦੋਖ ਤੇ ਲਿਹੋ ਬਚਾਈ। ਖੜਕ ਕੇਤ ਮੈਂ ਸ਼ਰਨ ਤਿਹਾਰੀ, ਆਪ ਹਾਥ ਦੇ ਲਿਹੋ ਉਬਾਰੀ। ਸਰਬ ਠੋਰ ਮੋਹ ਸਹਾਈ, ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਦੋਖ ਤੇ ਲਿਹੋ ਬਚਾਈ। ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰੀ ਹਮ ਪਰ ਜਗ ਮਾਤਾ, ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਕਰਾ ਪੂਰਨ ਸੁਰਾਤਾ। ਕਿਲ ਬਿਗ ਸ਼ਕਲ ਦੇਹ ਕੋ ਹਰਤਾ, ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਦੋਖੀਨ ਕੋ ਸ਼ੈ ਕਰਤਾ। ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਸਤੁਜੋ ਜਪੈ ਦਿਆਲਾ, ਪੂਰਨ ਕਰਾ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਤਤਕਾਲਾ। ਮਨ ਬਾਂਛਿਤ ਫਲ ਪਾਵੈ ਸੋਈ, ਦੁਖ ਨ ਦਸੈ ਵਿਆਪਤ ਕੋਈ। ਅੜਿਲ ਸੁਣੇ ਗੁੰਗ ਜੋ ਜਾਹੇ, ਸਰਸ ਨ ਪਾਵਈ। ਸੁਣੇ ਮੁਗਟ ਚਿਤਲਾਏ ਚਿਤਰਤਾ ਆਵਈ। ਦੁਖ ਦਰਦ ਪਉ ਨਿਕਟ ਨਾਥ ਨਰਕੇ ਰਹੇ। ਹੁਜੁ ਜਾਕੀ ਏਕ ਬਾਰ, ਚਉਪਈ ਕੋ ਕਹੈ ਚਉਪਈ। ਸੰਮਰ 17 ਸਹਿਸ ਪਨਿਜੈ, ਅੜਤ ਸਹਿਸ ਪੁਨ ਤੀਨ ਕਹੀਜੈ। ਭਾਦਰੋਂ ਸੁਦੀ ਅਸ਼ਟਮੀ ਰਵਾਰਾ, ਤੀਰਥ ਤਦਰਵ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸੁਦਾਰਾ। ਸਵਈਆ ਪਾਹੇ ਗਹੇ ਜਬ ਤੇ ਤੁਮਰੇ, ਤਬ ਤੇ ਕਉ ਆਂਖ ਤਰੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਨਿਓ। ਰਾਮ ਰਹੀਮ ਪੁਰਾਨ ਕਰਾਨ, ਅਨੇਕ ਕਹੈ ਮਤ ਏਕ ਨ ਮਾਨਿਓ। ਸਿਮਰਤ ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਵੇਦ ਸੁਬੈ, ਬਹੁ ਭੇਦ ਕਹੈ ਹਮ ਏਕ ਨ ਜਾਣਿਓ। ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਸੁਪਾਨ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਤੁਮਰੀ ਕਰ, ਮੈਂ ਨ ਕਹਿਓ ਸਭ ਤੋਹੇ ਬਖਾਨਿਓ। ਦੋਹਰਾ ਸਗਲ ਦਵਾਰ ਕੋ ਛਾਟ ਕੈ, ਗਇਓ ਤੁਹਾਰੋ ਦਵਾਰ। ਬਾਹੇ ਗਾਹੇ ਕੀ ਲਾਜ ਅਸ, ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਦਾਸ ਤੁਹਾਰ। ਸਗਲ ਦਵਾਰ ਕੋ ਛਾਟ ਕੈ, ਗਇਓ ਤੁਹਾਰੋ ਦਵਾਰ। ਬਾਹੇ ਗਾਹੇ ਕੀ ਲਾਜ ਅਸ, ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਦਾਸ ਤੁਹਾਰ। ਰਾਮਕਲੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਤੀਜਾ। ਆਨੰਦ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ। ਆਨੰਦ ਭਇਆ ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਏ, ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਮੈਂ ਪਾਇਆ। ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਤਾਂ ਪਾਇਆ ਸਹਿਜ ਸੇਤੀ, ਮਨ ਵਜੀਆਂ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ। ਰਾਗ ਰਤਨ ਪਰਵਾਰ ਭਰੀਆਂ, ਸ਼ਬਦ ਗਾਵਣੇ ਆਈਆਂ। ਸ਼ਬਦੋ ਤਾਂ ਗਾਵੋ ਹਰੀ ਕੇਰਾ, ਮਨ ਜਨੀ ਵਸਾਇਆ। ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਆਨੰਦ ਹੋਆ, ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਮਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਦਾ ਰੋ ਹਰਨਾਲੇ। ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਆਨੰਦ ਹੋਆ, ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਮੈਂ ਪਾਇਆ। ਇਹ ਮਨ ਮੇਰਿਆ ਤੂੰ ਸਦਾ ਰੋ ਹਰਨਾਲੇ। ਹਰ ਨਾਲ ਰਹੋ ਤੂੰ ਮਨ ਮੇਰੇ, ਦੁਖ ਸਭ ਵਿਸਾਰਨਾ। ਅੰਗੀਕਾਰ ਉਹ ਕਰੇ ਤੇਰਾ, ਕਾਰਜ ਸਭ ਸੁਆਰਨਾ। ਸਭਨਾ ਗਲਾ ਸਮਰੱਥ ਸੁਆਮੀ, ਸੁਖ ਮਨੋ ਵਿਸਾਰੇ। ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਮਨ ਮੇਰੇ, ਸਦਾ ਰਹੁ ਹਰ ਨਾਲੇ। ਸਾਚੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਕਿਆ ਨਾਹੀ ਕਰ ਤੇਰਾ, ਘਰ ਤਾਂ ਤੇਰਾ ਸਭ ਕੁਛ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇਹ ਸੋ ਪਾਵੇ। ਸਦਾ ਸਿਫਤ ਸਲਾਹ ਤੇਰੀ, ਨਾਮ ਮਨ ਵਸਾਵੈ। ਨਾਮ ਜਿਨ ਕੈ ਮਨ ਵਸਿਆ, ਬਾਜੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਕਨੇਰੇ। ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਸੱਚੇ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕਿਆ ਨਾਹੀ ਕਰ ਤੇਰਾ, ਸਾਚਾ ਨਾਮ ਮੇਰਾ ਆਧਾਰ। ਸਚ ਨਾਮ ਆਧਾਰ ਮੇਰਾ, ਜਿਨ ਭੁੱਖਾਂ ਸਭ ਗਵਾਈਆਂ। ਕਰ ਸ਼ਾਂਤ ਸੁਖ ਮਨ ਆਏ ਵਸਿਆ, ਜਿਨ ਇੱਛਾ ਸਭ ਪੁਜਾਈਆਂ। ਸਦਾ ਕੁਰਬਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਵਿਟੋ, ਜਿਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਇਹ ਵਡਿਆਈਆਂ। ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਸੁਨੋ ਸੰਤੋ, ਸ਼ਬਦ ਧਰੋ ਪਿਆਰੋ। ਸਾਚਾ ਨਾਮ ਮੇਰਾ ਆਧਾਰੁ, ਵਾਜੇ ਪੰਚ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਤਿਤ ਕਰ ਸੁਭਾਗੈ। ਕਰ ਸੁਭਾਗੈ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਵਾਜੇ, ਕਲਾ ਤਿਤ ਕਰ ਤਾਰੀਆ। ਪੰਚ ਦੂਤ ਤਦ ਵਸ ਕੀਤੇ, ਕਾਲ ਕੰਠ ਮਾਰਿਆ। ਤੁਰ ਕਰਮ ਪਾਇਆ ਤੁਧ ਜਿਨ ਕੋ, ਸੇ ਨਾਮ ਹਰਿ ਕੇ ਲਾਗੇ। ਕਹੈ ਨਾਨਕ ਤੈ ਸੁਖ ਹੋਆ, ਤਿਤ ਕਰ ਅਨਹਦ ਵਾਜੇ। ਆਨੰਦ ਸੁਨੋ ਵਡ ਭਾਗੀ ਹੋ, ਸਗਲ ਮਨੋਰਥ ਪੂਰੇ। ਪਾਰ ਬ੍ਰਹਮ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਪਾਇਆ, ਉਤਰੇ ਸਗਲ ਵਿਸੂਰੇ। ਦੁਖ ਰੋਗ ਸੰਤਾਪ ਉਤਰੇ, ਸੁਣੀ ਸਚੀ ਬਾਣੀ। ਸੰਤ ਸਾਜਣ ਭੈ ਸਰਸੇ, ਪੂਰੇ ਗੁਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਣੀ। ਸੁਣ ਤੇ ਪੁਨੀਤ ਕਹਤੇ ਪਵਿੱਤ, ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਰਹਿਆ ਭਰਪੂਰੇ। ਬਿਨਵੰਤ ਨਾਨਕ ਗੁਰ ਚਰਨ ਲਾਗੇ, ਵਾਜੇ ਅਨਹਦ ਤੂਰੇ। ਮੁੰਦਾਵਣੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾਂ। ਥਾਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਨ ਵਸਤੂ ਪਈਓ, ਸਤ ਸੰਤੋਖ ਵਿਚਾਰੋ। ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਨਾਮ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਕਾ ਪਇਓ, ਜਿਸ ਕਾ ਸਭ ਸੁਧਾਰੋ। ਜੇ ਕੋ ਖਾਵੈ ਜੇ ਕੋ ਪੁੰਚੈ, ਤਿਸ ਕਾ ਹੋਏ ਉਦਾਰੂ। ਹੇ ਵਸਤ ਤਜੀ ਨਹਿ ਜਾਈ, ਨਿਤ ਨਿਤ ਰਖ ਉਰ ਤਾਰੂ। ਤਮ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਚਰਨ ਲਗ ਤਰੀਐ, ਸਭ ਨਾਨਕ ਬ੍ਰਹਮ ਪਸਾਰੂ। ਸ਼ਲੋਕ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾਂ। ਤੇਰਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਤੋ ਨਾਹੀ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਤੋਈ। ਮੈਂ ਨਿਰਗੁਣਿਆਰੇ ਕੋ ਗੁਣ ਨਾਹੀ, ਆਪੇ ਤਰਸ ਪਇਓਈ। ਤਰਸ ਪਿਆ ਮਹਿਰਾਮਤ ਹੋਈ, ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਸੱਜਣ ਮਿਲਿਆ। ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਮਿਲੈ ਤਾਂ ਜੀਵਾ, ਤਨ ਮਨ ਥੀਵੈ ਹਰਿਆ। ਤਰਸ ਪਿਆ ਮਹਿਰਾਮਤ ਹੋਈ, ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਸੱਜਣ ਮਿਲਿਆ। ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਮਿਲੈ ਤਾਂ ਜੀਵਾ, ਤਨ ਮਨ ਥੀਵੈ ਹਰਿਆ। ਪੌੜੀ। ਤਿੱਥੈ ਤੂੰ ਸਮਰੱਥ, ਜਿੱਥੈ ਕੋਇ ਨਾਹੀ। ਉੱਥੇ ਤੇਰੀ ਰੱਖ ਅਗਨੀ ਉਦਰ ਮਾਹੇ। ਸੁਣ ਕੈ ਜਮ ਕੇ ਦੂਤ, ਨਾਏ ਤੇਰੇ ਛੜ ਜਾਹੇ। ਭਵ ਜਲ ਬਿਖਮ ਅਸ ਗਾਹੋ, ਗੁਰ ਸਬਦੀ ਪਾਰ ਪਾਏ। ਜਿਨ ਕੋ ਲੱਗੀ ਪਿਆਸ, ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਸੇ ਖਾਏ। ਕਲ ਮੈਂ ਇਹੋ ਪੁੰਨ, ਗੁਣ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਗਾਏ। ਸਭ ਸੇਨੋ ਕਿਰਪਾਲ, ਸਮਾਲੇ ਸਾਹਿ ਸਾਏ। ਬਿਰਥਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਜਾਏ, ਜੇ ਆਵੇ ਤੁਧ ਆਏ। ਸ਼ਲੋਕ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾਂ। ਅੰਤਰ ਗੁਰ ਆਰਾਧਨਾ, ਜਿਹਵਾ ਜਪ ਗੁਰ ਨਾਮ। ਨੇਤਰੀ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਭੇਖਣਾ, ਸਰਵਣੀ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਗੁਰ ਨਾਮ। ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਸੇਤੀ ਰਤਿਆ, ਦਰਗਹਿ ਪਾਈਏ ਠਾਉ। ਕਹੋ ਨਾਨਕ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰੇ, ਜਿਸਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਵਤ ਦੇ। ਜਗ ਮੈਂ ਉਤਮ ਕਾਟੀਐ, ਵਿਰਲੇ ਕੇ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾਂ। ਰਖੇ ਰਖਣ ਹਾਰ ਆਪ ਉਬਾਰੀਅਨ, ਗੁਰ ਕੀ ਪੈਰੀ ਪਾਏ ਕਾਜ ਸਵਾਰੀਅਨ। ਹੁਆ ਆਪ ਦਿਆਲ, ਮਨੋ ਨਾ ਵਸਾਰੀਅਨ। ਸਾਧ ਜਨਾ ਕੈ ਸੰਗ ਸਾਖਤ ਨਿੰਦਕ ਦੁਸ਼ਟ, ਖਿਨ ਮਾਹਿ ਬਿਦਾਰੀਅਨ। ਤੇ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕੀ ਟੇਕ, ਨਾਨਕ ਮਨੈ ਮਾਹੀ। ਜਿਸ ਸਿਮਰਤ ਸੁਖ ਹੋਏ, ਸਗਲੇ ਦੁਖ ਜਾਹੀ। ਤਿਸ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕੀ ਟੇਕ, ਨਾਨਕ ਮਨੈ ਮਾਹੀ। ਜਿਸ ਸਿਮਰਤ ਸੁਖ ਹੋਏ, ਸਗਲੇ ਦੁਖ ਜਾਹੀ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਅਰਦਾਸ ਇੱਕ ਓਂਕਾਰ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਭਗਵਤੀ ਜੀ ਸਹਾਇ ਵਾਰ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਭਗਵਤੀ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀ ਦਸਵੀਂ। ਪ੍ਰਥਮ ਭਗਵਤੀ ਸਿਮਰ ਕੈ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਲਈ ਧਿਆਏ, ਫਿਰ ਅੰਗਦ ਗੁਰ ਤੇ ਅਮਰਦਾਸ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਹੋਈ ਸਹਾਇ। ਅਰਜਨ ਹਰ ਗੋਬਿੰਦੋ ਸਿਮਰੋ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਹਰਿ ਰਾਏ, ਸ੍ਰੀ ਹਰਿ ਕ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨ ਧਿਆਈਐ ਜਿਸ ਡਿਠੇ ਸਭ ਉਪਜਾਏ। ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਿਮਰੀਐ ਘਰ ਨੌ ਨਿਧ ਆਵੈ ਧਾਏ, ਸਭ ਥਾਈ ਹੋਏ ਸਹਾਇ। ਦਸਵੇਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਪੰਥ ਦੇ ਵਾਲੀ ਸਭ ਥਾਈ ਹੋਣਾ ਜੀ ਸਹਾਇ। ਦਸਾਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਜੋਤ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਪਾਠ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਧਰ ਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਪੰਜਾਂ ਪਿਆਰਿਆਂ ਚੌਹਾਂ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ 40 ਮੁਕਤਿਆਂ 8 ਜੱਪੀਆਂ ਤੱਪੀਆਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਿਆ, ਵੰਡ ਛਕਿਆ ਦੇਖ ਚਲਾਈ ਤੇਗ ਬਾਈ, ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਅਣਦਿੱਠ ਕੀਤਾ ਤਿੰਨਾਂ ਪਿਆਰਿਆਂ ਸਚਿਆਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਕਮਾਈ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਸਿੰਘਣੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਧਰਮ ਏਤ ਸੀਸ ਦਿੱਤੇ, ਬੰਦ ਬੰਦ ਕਟਾਏ ਖੋਪਰੀਆਂ ਲੁਹਾਈਆਂ, ਚਰਖੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਚੜੇ ਆਰਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਚੜਾਏ ਗਏ, ਗੁਰਬਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਲਈ ਕੁਰਬਾਨੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਪਰ ਧਰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਾਰਿਆ, ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕੇਸਾਂ ਸਵਾਸਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਨਿਭਾਈ, ਤਿਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਮਾਈ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਧਰ ਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਪੰਜਾਂ ਤਖਤਾਂ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਧਰ ਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਪ੍ਰਥਮੇ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਹੈ ਜੀ। ਸਰਬੱਤ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਕੋ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 ਚਿਤਾਵੇ, ਤਾਵਨ ਕਾ ਸਦਕਾ ਸਰਬ ਸੁਖ ਹੋਵੇ। ਜਹਾਂ ਜਹਾਂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਤਹਾਂ ਤਹਾਂ ਰੱਛਿਆ ਰਿਆਇਤ, ਦੇਗ ਤੇਗ ਫਤਿਹ ਬਿਦ ਕੀ ਪੈਜ, ਪੰਥ ਕੀ ਜੀਤ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਸਹਾਇ। ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਕੇ ਬੋਲ ਬਾਲੇ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦਾਨ, ਕੇਸ ਦਾਨ, ਰਹਿਤ ਦਾਨ, ਵਿਵੇਕ ਵਿਸਾਹ ਦਾਨ, ਭਰੋਸਾ ਦਾਨ, ਦਾਨਾ ਸਿਰ ਦਾਨ, ਨਾਮ ਦਾਨ। ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਇਸ਼ਨਾਨ, ਚੌਂਕੀਆਂ, ਝੰਡੇ, ਬੂੰਗੇ, ਜੁਗੋ ਜੁਗ ਅਟਲ, ਧਰਮ ਕਾ ਜੈਕਾਰ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦਾ ਮਨ ਨੀਵਾਂ, ਮਤ ਉੱਚੀ, ਮਤ ਦਾ ਰਾਖਾ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਹੇ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੰਥ ਦੇ ਸਦਾ ਸਹਾਈ ਦਾਤਾਰ ਜੀਓ, ਸ੍ਰੀ ਨਨਕਾਣਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਗੁਰਧਾਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪੰਥ ਨੂੰ ਵਿਛੋੜਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ, ਖੁੱਲੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਤੇ ਸੇਵਾ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਦਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਦਾਨ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ੋ ਜੀ। ਹੇ ਨਿਮਾਣਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਮਾਣ, ਨਿਤਾਣਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਤਾਣ, ਨਿਓਟਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਓਟ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀਓ, ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀਓ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਪਾਠ ਦਾ, ਇਸ ਇਕੱਠ ਹੋਏ ਦਾ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀਓ ਉਸ ਵਿਛੜੀ ਹੋਈ ਆਤਮਾ ਸਰਦਾਰ ਬਲਬੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਸੋਢੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ ਨਾਤੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਮੇਨਟੇਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਬਿਰਾਜਮਾਨ ਹੋਏ ਸਨ। ਅੱਜ ਤੋਂ 20 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 15 ਸਤੰਬਰ 2001 ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਇਸ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਚਲਾਣਾ ਕਰ ਗਏ ਸਨ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀਓ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਿਹਨਤ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਕੁਰਬਾਨੀ, ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ, ਹੱਥ ਜੋੜ ਕੇ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀਓ, ਉਸ ਦਾ ਫਲ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਸ ਦੀ ਆਪ ਹੱਥ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀਓ ਰਾਖੀ ਕਰੋ। ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀਓ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬਲਬੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੋਢੀ ਦਾ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਅੱਗੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਵਧੇ ਫੁੱਲੇ, ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕਾਇਮ ਰਵੇ, ਤਾਂ ਜੋ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਪੰਥ ਦੀ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਲਈ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਦੇ। Today we have gathered here to pray to you, to seek blessings on Sardar Balbir Singh Sodhi's soul, who gave up his life for being a Sikh. He was wearing a turban and had full hair when he was innocently killed in front of his bus station right here about 20 years ago for no fault of his own. He was taken away from us because he was trying to preserve Sikh identity. He was taken away from us because he was wearing a turban. He was taken away from us because he had a beard. Please, we seek your blessings so that people all over the world, in the United States and abroad, could understand that hair and the beard and the turban on the head for Sikh is more important than his or her life. Therefore, we seek your blessings so that rest of the Sikhs could live a peaceful life and his sacrifice for the Sikh community will always be successful. सचे पिता जी हो आप जी दे हजूर इस वक्त कड़ा प्रसाद दी देगा हाजिर है अखरवाद घाट पुल चुक माफ करने सरबत दे कारज रास करने सही प्यारे मेल जिना मिलिया तेरा नाम चित आवे नानक नाम चढ़दी कला तेरे भाने सरबत दा भला वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह बोले सोनिया वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह
Good evening, everyone. For those who are standing, and we're waiting for the prayer service to be over, if you could please find a seat, we'd greatly appreciate that. Folks who are humbling us with a speaking role, if you could take a seat up front, the far this side right here, my left, and Sodhi Uncle G's family, if you could please come to the front and take a seat to my right or into the left, we'd greatly appreciate that. We'll get started in just about a minute once everyone takes their seats. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And again, while we're grabbing seats, if I could just make a request for Balbir Singh Sodhi's family, if they could please take if we can make sure that the front two rows are made available for their family as well. Good. And while you'll notice that we have community members that are passing out what is called prashad or bhog. This is an offering that is made after a prayer is offered. It is a mix of butter, flour, and sugar. So if you do have any allergies, you can simply refuse. If it's something you do not want to accept, please, it is okay for those who are not sick. But it is, again, it's butter, sugar, and flour. So please be mindful of allergies. But we hope you will participate if you are able to.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you, everyone, my friends, new and old, for joining us today. My name is Dr. Jaswant Singh Sachdev, and I'm a long-time resident of this valley for over 45 years. I am privileged to welcome all of you here this evening. Many of us have gathered at this gas station on this day before. For the last 20 years, we have been coming together each year at this shrine to honor the life of our brother, a husband, a father, an uncle, and a friend, Sardar Balbir Singh Sodhi, whose life was taken away from us in act of hate 2001, precisely 4 days after the despicable attack on US. Today, again, we are here today on 20th anniversary of his passing away him and show our support for his loving family and to let the world know that tolerance and love for the mankind is the ultimate mantra we believe in. On reaching out to open this event to the people of all faith backgrounds, we are trying to set an example of love and kindness as we honor all those who have been lost to and affected by the hate violence. With the wholehearted support of Sikh Coalition, a national Sikh organization, and of Global Sikh Alliance, a local organization of which I am one of the founding board member, the Sodhi family and the local Sikh community feels extraordinarily privileged in hosting this event. The laws of United States call for tolerance and declares that all communities, faiths, colors, and races, the whites, the blacks, and in betweens, are equal and free to live as one nation under God. Like each separate flower in a beautiful bouquet, we all have our qualities to contribute to the collective beauty and fragrance of this nation. Much alike the pillars that support a great building, we must stand firm together, for such a building is only as strong as its weakest column. The weapon of diversity needs ammunition of tolerance and love. Ignoring tolerance for those belonging to diverse section of this multifaceted society, we hurt ourselves, our community, our culture, and ultimately our country. We, the Homo sapiens, far superior to the others, but without tolerance, we will have no difference between us and them. To everyone watching at home, I thank you for being a part of our community tonight. Coming together in the spirit of unity and caring for one another is the only way to move our country forward. The Sikh prayer recited by Sardar Balbir Singh's family just before my prayer is an important way to process their grief that still afflicts them. For the remainder of the event, we are eager now to welcome new voices to the stage so that we can learn and listen together. Please allow me now to introduce our friend, the Executive Director of Sikh Coalition, Satjeet Kaur, to guide us through this event and this program. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਗੱਜ ਕੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. And to our guests, good evening. Thank you to the community for joining us here today. Sachdev Uncle Ji, Dr. Sachdev, thank you for the warm welcome and for the opportunity to allow me to serve in this way. My name is Satjeet Kaur. I serve as the executive director of the Sikh Coalition, but I'm here as a daughter of the Sikh community. And we're deeply humbled and privileged to join the Sodhi family and the Global Sikh Alliance in welcoming you all here today. To the entire Sodhi family, to his kids, Amarjeet, Maninder, Sukhwinder, Fuljeet, and Satvinder, and especially Satvinder, who is here for the first time after 20 years to be with her family on this day. This is the first time she's been able to join from India. And so we are deeply appreciative for all that who made that happen. To Rana ji, his brother, and his family, thank you. I know this day is really hard. The loss of a parent, the loss of a sibling is unlike that loss of anybody else. When they're robbed from us that early, we can't match that pain with anything else. But thank you for the ultimate seva, for the ultimate service of allowing us to participate in this. Because this moment 20 years ago taught our community so much and has given us the ability to come here together today and learn even more. And so, again, I know how hard today is for you all, but really thank you, because without you, we wouldn't be here. As we've gathered in the spirit of unity and solidarity this evening, I want to begin with a land acknowledgement, a recognition that we are gathered on the homeland of the Hohokam and the Odam peoples. As oppressed groups who share similar struggles for long denied equity, sovereignty, and the similarities between our communities are real. Long inhabited territories occupied by colonizers, arbitrary borders dividing our families, and land divisions forced upon once unified societies. As these survive and thrive in this area, struggles, but also celebrate our shared values, especially as we come together today to honor the life and legacy of a loved one who was the heart of this community. So many of us here have gathered this evening, sadly, who have gathered here today have sadly attended one too many of these events, just way too many of them. But it is this solidarity that is born out of hate that I want us to hold on to tonight and every night hereafter. We are gathered to remember Balbir tonight, but I first want to ground our conversation in a difficult truth. His was not only the first life lost to the aftermath of hate after 9/11, but so many members of our community were killed, harmed, humiliated, or otherwise had their lives altered by bias, bigotry, and discrimination. Too many Sikhs, Muslims, Arabs, South Asians, and so many others know the terrible contradiction between praying for the well-being of all, as the Sodhi family just did during the Ardas, but also knowing that our loved ones are under threat because how we look or who we pray to. But at the same time, we acknowledge that this shared struggle is precisely why we find ourselves surrounded by allies from so many different walks of American life. The resilience of all is what we want to elevate and celebrate and recognize this evening. In the first section of tonight's programming, we do want to take the time to focus on Balbirji's story, life, and legacy. We'll hear from a number of voices to do so, including Congressman Greg Stanton, a longtime family friend of the Sodhi family, Maria Fuentes, who serves as the, excuse me, I'm going to get this, it's a long title, so let me just make sure I get it right. Who serves as the director of Governor Ducey's Office of Youth, Faith, and Family. And apologies, we're actually bringing her forward in the program, so she will be a bit earlier. And Erica Moritzku, Deputy Assistant to President Biden and the Asian American Pacific Islander Senior Liaison, with a message from the President, or the White House, I should say. Unfortunately, another one of our speakers, Reverend Tracy Blackman, had to bow out due to a personal emergency, so we really wish she could be here. But our thoughts and prayers are with her and her loved ones today, with their loved ones. So before we get started, let us first immerse ourselves in Balbir Singh Sodhi's life. Please join me in welcoming to stage civil rights leader, filmmaker, lawyer, and close friend to the Sodhi family, and her personal friend, Valerie Kaur.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you. Thank you to the elders of this land, the Hokam and the Odam peoples. Thank you to the Sodhi family. And to the Sikh Coalition, thank you for organizing this vigil tonight and bringing us all together from all corners of the country. Thank you to the faith leaders who are here tonight and the elected officials. Thank you to the community members and all of you watching at home. Thank you. We are gathered here tonight 20 years after Balbir Singh Sodhi was killed at this spot, at this gas station. Balbir Uncle, as so many of us called him, was the first person to be killed in a hate crime after 9/11. So we are gathering here tonight to honor him and all we have lost to hate in the last 2 decades. You see, this gas station is the second ground zero. It is the ground zero for all the people who have been killed or harmed in the hate violence, the state violence, and the wars abroad for the last 2 decades. So we are gathering tonight in our grief and our sorrow and our trauma over all that we have lost and all that we continue to lose. And we are finding the audacity to lift our gaze on this sacred night and reimagine a world where we are all safe and free. How? How do we do that? We are here to remember Balbir Uncle's death, but the answer lies in his life. Balbir Uncle lived a life of love. Balbir Uncle's life is our North Star. So with the blessing of the Sodhi family, with Auntie Ji, his wife, and his children and his grandchildren, with his brothers, Rana, and all the families gathered here, with your blessing, I will tell the story of Balbir Uncle's life as you have told me these last 20 years. Do you see him? He is a little boy, and his mother is braiding his long gut and tying it in a juda, a bun, and making the patka really tight so his little strands of hair stay inside as he runs through the village with his sisters and brothers. Balbir is the third eldest of 11 siblings, and his childhood was the fields of Punjab. Do you see him? He is a young man, kind eyes, radiant heart, and it is his wedding day. And he is standing next to Auntie Ji, Joginder Kaur, and you are making the lava. And it is a day of happiness. And then he is holding his first daughter in his arms, Satwinder Kaur, who is here tonight, and then his sons, and he is filled with pride and with joy. Do you see him? He is holding his head in his hands, shaken by what he is seeing on the city streets of New Delhi on fire. 6 lynched, tires thrown over their bodies as they are burned alive in the anti-Sikh pogroms of 1984. And he knows that he cannot stay and keep his family safe. Do you see him? His plane touches down on US soil, and his heart is filled with relief and excitement and gratitude, for this is a nation where he can practice his faith freely. This is a nation where his family will be safe. And so he is driving cabs and working the register at the 7-Eleven and sending money home to Auntie Ji and all the kids. And when his brothers ask him to move to Phoenix, he goes with them, believing in the dream of America. Do you see him? He is standing in front of his gas station, his very own business. And the children run up to the store, and he sees these children of his customers as his own children, and he gives them candy. They call him Dr. Bill, Mr. Bill. And the kids, as they're riding their skateboards in that parking lot over there, His brother, Ranaji, looks at him and says, a kid could get hurt and they could come and sue you. And Balbir uncle just says, these are God's children. Let them enjoy it. When people came to fill up on gas and they realized they had no money, Balbir uncle would say, oh, just fill up and go. And Rana and his brothers would look at Balbir uncle and say, are you a saint or are you a fool? And Balbir uncle would just laugh and say, well, God wants us to serve all. Do you see him? He is in the car with his son, Sukhvinder, and they're passing a church. And he bows his head in reverence. And Sukhvinder looks at his father and says, why are you doing that, Dad? We're not Christian. And Balbir uncle looks at him and says, God is everywhere. Do you see him? He is chasing his nieces and nephews in circles around the couch in a massive tickle fight. He is cooking big meals for his brothers after a long day of work. And every single day he is calling Auntie G on the phone, racking up the phone bills, but it doesn't matter because he misses her so much. He loves her so much. And they made a plan to see each other in November for their 25th wedding anniversary. Do you see them? He is watching the towers fall, and his heart is aching, and he tells his brothers, I want to go there. I want to go and help with the rescue effort. And his brothers say, you need some kind of skill or training to do that. But his heart keeps aching, and then his phone starts ringing, and it doesn't stop ringing. For 6 in our community were calling him, calling his brothers, saying, someone told us to go back home to our country. They're yelling at us in the street. And you see, this is a moment where hate violence broke out on city streets across America against Muslim Americans and against our community. And Balbir uncle and his brothers, they remembered the pogroms of 1984 in India. They remembered how racial slurs broke into bloodshed in the streets. And so his brothers with Balbir uncle, they went to the Gurdwara to plan a press conference for Sunday, September 16th, to tell the nation that we were Americans who were hurting just like them. Balbir uncle called Ranaji and said, don't go to work, it's not safe. And Ranaji said, well, what about you? Why are you at work today? And he says, I live in a safe area. These brothers, they loved each other so much. Do you see them? He decides to go to Costco on Saturday, the day before the press conference was going to be held, and he was buying crates of flowers to plant in front of his gas station, and he saw a jar at the checkout that said 9/11 Victims Fund, and he just emptied out his wallet, everything he had. And he calls his brother and said, Costco is out of American flags, and I really want an American flag to fly at my store. And Ranaji says, don't worry, I'll look for one for you. I'll see you later today. Do you see him? He is standing right there, planting flowers. I don't know if he saw the truck come around this intersection or the gun leaning out the window, but 5 shots rang out and Balbir uncle fell right there and bled to death, not knowing who shot him or why he was dying. His killer, when arrested, said, I am a patriot. Do you see him? Balbir Uncle's story could have ended here, as so many stories do when one dies. But this was not the end of his story. His death was a beginning because of how he lived. After his death, I traveled to India to see Auntie Ji to try to help tell their story. And Auntie Ji, do you remember? I came with this long list of questions, and she was dressed in white, just as today, the color of mourning. And I asked you just one question. I said, what would you like to tell the people of America? And I was expecting despair. They took your whole world from you. But she said, thank you. When I came to America for my husband's memorial, they came out in the thousands. Christian, Muslim, Jew, they didn't know me, but they wept with me and cared for me. They loved me. Tell them thank you for their love. You see, Balbir Uncle lived a life of such courage and love that it inspired his brothers to respond to his murder, not with fear or vengeance, but with a love without limit. And America did not hear the story. His story barely made the evening news, just like so many of our communities broken by hate. But the brothers told the local community the story of his life and the love that he lived. And it was enough to move thousands of people to come to see him, not as a foreigner or terrorist, but as a neighbor, as a brother. And that did not stop the violence, but it was an act of solidarity that helped this family return to Chardikala. The sixth spirit of Chardikala, ever rising spirits, even in darkness, ever rising joy, even in hardship. I have seen that spirit of Chardikala shine so bright in Rana Sodhi these last 20 years. Balbir Uncle's younger brother. After his brother was murdered, Rana Ji made a decision to dedicate the rest of his life to telling his brother's story to everyone he could. And he never stopped these 20 years. He decided that the best way to honor his brother was to continue his legacy and radiate that kind of love. And I will never forget, Ranaji, watching you speak with Balbir Uncle's killer and forgive him and begin this process of reconciliation. You have taught us that forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is freedom from hate. I was a college student when we met. Your story turned me and a whole generation of us into activists. Satyajit, Kiran, so many of us who are here, who have been here. And now I'm back here and I'm a mother. And I brought my son to meet you for the first time because I wanted him to know our story. And so this is what I want to tell my son and all the children and young people who are here tonight, who are hearing these hard stories and trying to make sense of them. This is what I want you to know, my love. We are not victims. We are survivors. We are teachers. We are warriors. They can colonize us, they can try to kill us, but they cannot crush us because we are sovereign. We are Sant Sipahi, sage warriors. The sage is enraptured by the world as it is, and the warrior labors for the world as it ought to be. And so it's okay when those hard moments come. It's okay to feel that grief. It's okay to honor your rage. And then take a breath and remember that you are not alone. That Balbir uncle is your ancestor. That his blood courses through your veins and his spirit radiates in your heart. And that if he could sing a song of a revolutionary kind of love, so can we. Like Black people and Indigenous people and so many of our ancestors have on this so long before we ever got here. If we sing that song of love in one voice, perhaps we can get the nation to sing along with us. For this is what I know to be true. We need sound government, and we need just policy. And the only way we will deliver a future where all our children are safe and free is if we, each of us, live into a new way of being and seeing, leaving no one outside of our circle of care. We are ready. We are ready for a shift in culture and consciousness, a revolution of the heart. Nako beri nehi bagana. I see no enemy. I see no stranger. Can we see the world like Balbir uncle saw it? And so what if we looked at his turban? He wore his turban as part of his faith, his commitment to love and serve all. What if we made the value that he died for, the value that Rana has lived for 20 years, what if we made that value of love our North Star? What if we refused to divide the world into us versus them, individually and collectively, and valued human dignity above all? Perhaps then you could see Balbir uncle as your uncle, and my son as your son, as I see your beloveds as my own. That is how we build the beloved community. And that is the gift we can give our children. For 20 years from today, and 20 years after that, our children will come back to this spot, to this land, and they will remember us. They will remember us. They will remember that we gathered in the midst of so much grief and had the courage to sing a song of love. Sing it with me now. Nanak Nam Chardi Kala Tere Bane Sarbat Tapala. In the name of divine oneness, we find ever rising high spirits within your will. May there be grace for all of humanity. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. Gavi, will you come forth, my love? Thank you. Ranaji, we have a gift for you. And Auntie Ji, will you both come forth? There are thousands of people all around the country who are with you 20 years later. We will never forget Balbir uncle's name. We will never stop telling his story. And this book is filled with notes and prayers and messages so that you may, in those dark hours, only have to open its pages and know that we are by your side.
Thank you, Valerie. Those were beautiful words. And with that, I'd like to invite Congressman Stanton to the stage.
Valerie, that was so beautiful and touching. And um, I think I speak on behalf of every person in the audience when I say, because of your beautiful words, yes, we see him. We see him. Thank you so much. Thank you. So beautiful. Thank you all for being here tonight in this time of shared reflection, healing, and remembrance of the life of Balbir Singh Sodhi. My heart is with the Sodhi family and all of Arizona's Sikh community. You have shown incredible courage and resilience. You have never stopped living true to your faith, and you have done so much to honor Balbir's memory, life, and what he stood for. Now, I've been so blessed to come to know Balbir through his brother Rana and the entire Sodhi family. You've embraced me for many years. Thank you. My friend, you have made it your mission to serve our community in his memory. You give everyone the same love and care you gave your brother, and we are all for you. Everyone. Everyone here tonight has worked to transform a horrific and senseless act, an incredible loss, into a reminder that peace, love, and understanding hold tremendous power in stitching our community back together. And today, we are continuing that work. We are doing what Balbir wanted to do when he witnessed the tragic attacks on September 11th, coming together to show our community that peace can prevail and that we are stronger when we see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors and fellow citizens. In a time when our community, we need unity more than ever. There remain those who seek to divide us. The menaces of racism, bigotry, and hatred still plague the minds of too many around the country and even here in Arizona. Hate has no place in this country. Balbir's murder and every vile act of bigotry are unacceptable. They are un-American and they must be stopped. To honor Balbir and every person we have lost to a hate crime, we must do all we can to move Arizona forward and support the important work of those that are here today. We must create a community in which every person can live with dignity and without fear of being targeted for violence or discrimination. And to do that, we must continue to reach within ourselves to find every way to do better and to be better, to make our community and our country the very best it can be. The values that Balbir and the greater Sikh community stand for are the ones that we all should be standing for. Celebrating and embracing our differences, promoting peace and understanding, and fighting for true equality, for justice, and for righteousness for all, no matter what we look like, no matter what we believe, or who we love. They are the foundation of our shared values as Americans. And when we stand united as neighbors and as Americans, no force can stop us. Thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. It is such an honor to honor Balbir, his memory, and all that he stood for. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Stanton. And now I'd like to welcome Maria Fuentes of Youth, Family, and Faith and Family. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And don't worry, I've gotten it wrong myself in front of folks. Governor's Office of Youth, Faith, and Family. And I am extraordinarily grateful and feel a lot of privilege and honor to be able to be here on behalf of Governor Ducey today to present family with a proclamation in the name of Balbir Singh Sodhi. Learning about his life, and thank you so much. That was beautiful. I see him and I see all of you. And it is such an important thing that you are doing. We are still plagued with so much hate and so much division. And to be able to honor the love that I feel all around at this event, to be able to honor that love by continuing to spread the love at a time where we continue to see more and more need for that love, for that education, for people to have more awareness. I wish that we could talk about this all day, every day. And so thank you for doing that, because it's very brave and courageous, important. And I am very personally grateful. And I feel safe saying I'm also very grateful on behalf of the governor, because this is too critically important not to do, and not enough people are doing it enough. And so thank you very much. In the proclamation, we speak of Balbir's kind-hearted character, shared values of equality, community, which were known to everyone, which is very evident here. We speak of his brother, who has committed his life to educating others about discrimination, about love, about the importance of coming together. We speak of this event, which was the first of too many. One was too many, but we continue to see horrendous events in the wake of 9/11, and we're still struggling with a lot of those challenges today. And so I'm very honored to be here on behalf of the governor to say that on behalf of the state of Arizona, on this, the 15th day of September 2021, we recognize this day to commemorate the life of Balbir Singh Sodhi and his legacy, while also paying tribute to all who are harmed by hate-related incidents, so that we can continue to remember and honor him, honor the family, honor each other, honor all who walk this path of love and unity, and pray and continue to pray that this spreads not just throughout communities, throughout Arizona, throughout our country and the world. So thank you very much for having me. It's truly an honor.
So much, and thank you for the grace. And next, I'd like to welcome Erica Maritzku. Erica serves as Deputy Assistant to the President and the AAPI Senior Liaison for the White House, and we are really honored to have her here today. Thank you.
Good evening. It's my honor to share this space with you, and thank you for welcoming me. It's with great humility. I'm humbled to bring a message from the President of the United States. I'm grateful for the opportunity to join all those gathered today to remember Balbir Singh Sodhi, a beautiful life tragically taken by hatred and bigotry. As Americans, there are simple core values that should bring us together. And one of them is uniting against the scourge of hate, racism, and xenophobia. Is at its best when we treat one another with kindness and decency. Sadly, there are those who have turned to hate instead of tolerance and love, discriminating against others because of who they are or how they look, dress, speak, or worship. We are all hurt by this hate. And silence in the face of hate is complicity. For our country and for our future, we cannot be complicit. We must continue to act. During my first week in office, I directed all federal agencies to combat the resurgence of xenophobia. I was also proud to sign the COVID-19 Hate Crime Act, which will invest resources in combating hate crimes. This investment includes funding and support for forming specialized hate crime units, creating state hotlines that are accessible in different languages, and training local law enforcement to identify, investigate, and report these heinous crimes. We have a lot more work ahead of us, and my administration will continue to do everything possible to address injustice wherever it exists. But for all of the good that policies and laws can do, we also have to change hearts and minds. I know that with the hard work of Sikh American organizations and a new generation of Sikh artists, activists, healers, storytellers, and community leaders, we can make real the promise of a more just and equitable America. To the family of Balbir Singh Sodhi, you are a model of strength and courage by turning your pain into purpose. I pray that Balbir Ji's memory brings a smile to your lips before it brings a tear to your eye, and that it is my hope for every person who is holding in their hearts a family member, friend, or even a stranger whose life was taken by hatred and intolerance. Let us honor their memories by standing together in the Sikh spirit of Sharikala, ever rising spirits, even in hardship, and build an America where all are safe and free. It's signed by Joe Biden.
Valerie, Congressman Stanton, Maria Fuentes, and Erica, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for presenting this note from President Biden. I just want to reiterate something beautiful that Valerie Gore said and amplify it. In Sikhi, there are many phrases, many words that really amplify the values that we are supposed to embody, because these are the values of the divine. And one of those are without fear and without hate, nirpo and nirved. And so as we think about all of the challenges that were created in the aftermath of 9/11 with the rise of xenophobia, we also think about the way Sikhs, Muslims, Arabs, South Asians, and again, so many marginalized communities led against that backlash. And we think about how they did it without fear and without hate. For the next section of our program, we will hear from leaders of different faith traditions who have stepped forward to share their community's perspectives on what they experienced after 9/11 and what the notion of standing with those other religions and other communities in times of hardship means to them, what solidarity means to them. I'm honored to welcome tonight Dallin Mabey of the Native American Rights Fund, Reverend Larry Fultz of the Arizona Interfaith Movement, Imam Khalid Latif of the Islamic Center of NYU, Sister Simone Campbell, formerly of the Nuns of the Bus, on the Bus, and Reverend Michael Ray Matthews of Faith in Action. And I also want to acknowledge our Jewish brothers and sisters and siblings who are unable to join this evening because of Yom Kippur, but have sent their thoughts, prayers, and well wishes for this gathering. And with that, may I please welcome Dallin Mabey. Thank you.
I'd like to start by thanking you for inviting me to participate in such an amazing event. My name is Dallin Mabey. I am Northern Arapaho and Seneca from New York and Wyoming. It's my profound pleasure to share a few words and thoughts at this memorial. Our people are no strangers to memorials, to honoring and remembering the lives and the service of our loved ones and our family. My heart is a little troubled by the events of 20 years ago, knowing that in the very act of making the world a better place, a more beautiful place, your uncle, your family, your friend, your brother was taken from you. And that the world lost a little of the light that makes this diverse and beautiful place what it is. Our people are spiritual people. We are warrior people. We are people who humble ourselves before our Creator, before man above, and constantly give thanks for the very air that we breathe, for the blessings that we enjoy, but most importantly, the love that we are able to experience, a love that is very evident today in the hearts and minds and the eyes of the people that I have the privilege of standing shoulder to shoulder with. As Native people, we are no strangers to loss. We are asked to suffer, we are asked to sacrifice. But it is that very love for each other that allows us to withstand the many things that we are asked to shoulder, the many burdens that we are asked to carry. And so I invite you to simply remember the example that your Uncle Sodhi had as he lived his life in front of you, next to you, and amongst you. And it is my prayer that we can come together and stand shoulder to shoulder to bear some of these burdens together. So my heart has taken some of that trouble and it has replaced it with hope and with love. And the knowledge that this memorial is an opportunity to not just remember, but to choose love in every simple act of every single day. And in that way, we can best honor our friend, your family, and your loved ones. Aho, thank you.
Of the Arizona. Thank you so much. Can I welcome to the stage Reverend Larry Fultz? Thank you.
I'm honored to be here this evening on behalf of the Arizona interfaith movement. For the last 20 years, we've gathered here for this event. And Valerie, I will say that I thought that I had seen Balbir, but you have brought new light and new purpose, a new picture. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I speak for all of us. You've touched our hearts in a way that we haven't been touched before. I always speak at this event, and I generally talk about the injustice that one man inflicted upon another one out of ignorance. But tonight, I don't want to talk about what one man did to him, but what one man has done for us. It's always a tragedy when a loved one is murdered in such an appalling fashion. But if in passing we can discover some blessing that brings a modicum of comfort, it's good to dwell on it. In the summer of 1965, the Arizona Interfaith was birthed with the idea of the importance of bringing faiths together to talk about our faith so there wouldn't be misunderstandings. But it was 6 years later, on September 15th, 2001, that our mission was refined and it was defined in such a way that we found it important to take a leadership role along with our dear sick brothers and sisters to help our mission and to recognize how important our work was to build bridges of understanding, and that when one faith is attacked, all of our faiths are at risk. I'll never forget some of the things that happened in those early days. To be honest, I was a member of the Arizona Interfaith Movement. The Sikh community was part of that. I didn't know all I needed to know, to be sure. I learned a lot. And the death of this one man set in motion a series of events that has shaped us, our community, hopefully our nation, and our world. It brought a greater understanding of the difference between a Sikh and a terrorist. It helped us to understand that a Sikh man, his turban is a badge of honor, as a king would wear a crown. It gave audiences to community leaders, political figures, religious leaders, educators, and yes, even to presidents. It gave an opportunity for the Sikh community to show their heart to the world when Rana, Balbir's brother, was able to visit the perpetrator in prison and extend a hand of forgiveness. Today, our community, our world, have a better understanding of the Sikh faith. Balbir Singh Sodhi brought all of this to us as a result of his untimely passing. If we could ask for a miracle to bring him back, I know we would. But knowing that he has made us a better people with a greater understanding is a legacy that his loved ones can be proud of. For me, Balbir Singh Sodhi, you're my hero. You're a hero to the interfaith community. You're a hero to the Sikh community. And even greater, you're a hero to your beloved family. Thank you for the sacrifice you gave so that we could. God be with you. Rest in peace.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Larry Foltz. And join me in please welcoming to the stage Imam Khalid Latif. Thank you.
I was also in college on September 11th in 2001. I was a sophomore at New York University. I stood with about 10 or 12,000 of my classmates in the middle of our campus in Manhattan in a park called Washington Square as we watched the second plane fly into the towers. Where there was lots of noise and lots of commotion. In the midst of everything that ensued thereafter, I found myself in places where an 18-year-old necessarily shouldn't find themselves in. And I remember so many things distinctly in those days after. I remember overhearing students that went to school with me that were saying things to the effect of, we need to gather up all of the Muslims and send them out of this country so that things like this don't happen anymore. I remember walking down a staircase and a young woman trying to push me down the stairs and me turning and looking to her eye to eye and seeing just anger apparent on her face. I remember my roommates who were not Muslim, but came from a South Asian background, who were Hindu, Christian, and also Sikh themselves, saying that we can't let you walk around by yourself. We're going to all walk around together. And I distinctly remember 4 days later, when I had finally gotten out of New York City after transit reopened and we could move again, when I heard the news that our brother Balbir Singh Sodhi was killed senselessly right in the spot that we're standing today. My sincerest condolences go to you all as members of his family. As my sister Valerie said, it wasn't full across headlines everywhere, but I can tell you there were so many of us who heard his story and understood the importance of it, both in that moment as well as over the last 20 years. And standing here with you all today, it hits me just how deeply connected we are in ways that we at times don't even realize. And how constantly over the last 2 decades, this man's story kept coming into my life again and again and again. I've always had a deep affinity for the Sikh community, and it's not just because of our shared Punjabi roots, or that one of the families that we were so close to growing up was one of my father's partners in his medical practice, a man who is named Dr. Ajit Singh Sodhi. But to recognize and understand, to me as a person trying to make sense of everything that has transpired in these last 20 years, individuals who are so deeply committed to their faith and the values that it espouses, who do not seek validation from a society that cannot understand that people who have brown skin can practice different religions, who still, despite everything else, find a deep sense of identity rooted within their own tradition, regardless of who it is that tells them they don't belong. I was gathering my thoughts and listening to every word that was uttered. That in a last year and a half of a pandemic, I didn't know how much my heart needed to be in a place where I heard people speaking in Punjabi and seeing people who look like my own family members utter prayers in the remembrance of a good man. And one of the times that I first was blessed to learn the name of Ranaji was at a panel I was sitting at that people had authored a text called Patriot Acts. Narratives of post 9/11 injustice. And of the people that were speaking, there was a young Sikh man who was standing, tall, well built, but had a certain quietness to him. And as he was telling his story, he shared how he was constantly harassed and mocked and ridiculed and bullied in his school. And it got to a point where he came home and he said to his father that I can't take it anymore. I want you to cut my hair. And the father, he did what his son said to him. And it still sticks with me till today, the words that this young man said as he saw the locks of his hair falling to the ground. It was like a tree, he said, watching its own leaves fall to the earth. And a tree does not look right without its leaves. And I felt more connection and solidarity to this young Sikh man in that moment than I have to most people of my own faith. Later on, we're going to light candles at this gathering. And when you look at that gathering, you want to think in the example of the candle what it means to be a person of real love. Because the light from that candle will give us the best example of what this country is in need of, so much more so than it might want to admit. That from one candle we'll be able to light candle upon candle upon candle, and the initial flame will not burn out. If anything, it's just creating more and more light. You want your light to be like that. We want our light to be like that. And the light from that candle will give in every way and direction that the flame allows for it to go. Not putting conditions or qualifications in any capacity. And that's the way we want our light to be shared. That's the way we want our love to be given. As a Muslim, I can tell you that I'm so grateful for the Sikh community. That the rise in hate and bigotry and racism that systemically and structurally plagues our society now has had many people, but I've never heard once any of my Sikh brothers and sisters that we will separate ourselves from people who are Muslim. We recognize our blessing to be a part of a moment like this, and that we open up our hearts to all of the love that is being shared here tonight, so that we can take a little of it back with us to wherever we're going and become those who simply do what is right because it is the right thing to do. So in the true legacy of our brother Balbir Singh Sodhi, may we always be the reason that people have hope in this world and never the reason that people might dread it.
Imam, thank you for those beautiful words. Please welcome to the stage Sister Simone Campbell. Thank you.
Good evening. It is such an honor to be gathered together tonight in hope, in memory, but in promise of a future. I especially want to acknowledge the Sodhi family and the amazing witness and faithfulness that you have brought to this memorial. It gives me life. It gives us life. Thank you. I come as a Catholic sister. And as a Catholic sister in our faith tradition, we honor saints, people who have been notable for their amazing gifts of generosity or love or responding to the needs around. And reflecting on Valerie's amazing story and seeing the man, I have come to realize that in my perspective, Balbir Singh is a saint, is a holy man, is a person to be reverenced. His generosity in caring for neighbors is amazing. His willingness to do the foolish thing of give himself to care for others, that is something to be emulated. And to hear that he was planting flowers in what had to be a hot Arizona sun, that is perseverance for beauty. It's that gift, that willingness to let the beauty outside reflect his beauty that was on the inside, that moves me to say, in our tradition, we would call him saint. But saints are not just to be marveled at. Sometimes we want to put them on a pedestal and just pretend like, oh, it couldn't be us. That was amazing. We couldn't do that. Saints, rather, in our tradition, are to be emulated. Pope Francis has recently made this very clear when he calls on everyone in the world to embody and witness the spirit of love and welcome and inclusion for all. That is the job that is given to us. And it's the saints that can encourage us to know it's possible. In our nation over the last 20 years, it seems we've been driven further apart. For the last 17 years, I've lived in Washington, D.C. and done politics, and it has gotten more and more difficult. But tonight, what I feel renewed is that commitment to finding a way forward together. Faith is the witness that calls us to be in relationship, in community. And the power of the sick faith for me is to see the community that gathers together. I was so touched to see you gathered in prayer here, and I felt my heart at one, wanting to belong. That's the witness that you bring to us. Breaking out of division into the hunger for oneness, so that we might indeed be reconciled to each other in our nation. May respond to the needs around us. So my faith calls us, and I invite you to join me as we are challenged to renew our own lives, to recommit to the journey in the footsteps of Saint Balbir Sodhi. Let us plant flowers. Let us act for justice. Let us work for the healing of our community. And let this be the lasting tribute, so that, as we've said, 20 years from now, we might be closer together. We might recognize each other as brothers and sisters, and we will say, yes, Saint Balbir Sodhi started this, but we're carrying it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Simone Campbell. And please welcome to the stage Reverend Michael Ray Matthews.
This sacred space and sacred moment. I'm honored to be here today with my kindred faith leaders to share in of compassion and solidarity. We stand in solidarity with the Sodhi family. We stand in solidarity with we stand in solidarity in the words of the late Howard, all who stand in this moment in history with their backs against the wall. We stand together because we know that our well-being, that our flourishing, and that our liberation are tied together. Tonight is a night of profound meaning for me as an African American, as a Christian minister, as a human being. I am here to encounter the story of Balbir Sodhi. I am here to encounter the story and the love and the power of the Sodhi family. I'm here to grieve and rage and wander. I am here to disrupt the impulse in our culture to look away and to forget. I am here to reimagine myself, to reimagine my relationships, to reimagine our institutions and our culture. I am here because I know that we are called as people of moral courage to take action, to struggle, to labor together, to cultivate beloved community. And so I pray that this moment will inspire not just our memory, but our action. And that action will take many forms, all the forms necessary, both private and public. I pray that this action will show up in the relationships that we cultivate and in the truth telling that we share in our communities. I pray that it will show up in our organizing and our advocacy, and that it will show up in the millions of acts of compassion and solidarity that make us one human family. And I pray that this action would flow from the deepest wells of our love. The ancient poet Rumi said that there is a kiss that we want with our whole lives. There's a profound connection that can happen between us and the sacred, and among us within the sacred. His poem, I think, teaches us that such a profound connection is rooted in choosing to close the language door and open the love window, to turn our words and our intentions into tangible acts of revolutionary love. And so I want to offer his words in song as a call to action for all of us. There is some kiss we want with our whole lives, the touch of spirit on the body. Sea water begs the pearl to break its shell, and the lily, how passionately it needs some wild. Darling, at night I open the window and beg the moon to come and press his face against mine and breathe into me, breathe into me, breathe into me, breathe into me. Close the language door and open the love window. The moon won't use a door, only the window. Close the language door and open the love window. The moon won't use a door, only the window. Close the language door and open the love window. The moon won't use a door. May we never forget the story of Balbir Singh Sodhi, and may we never forget the ancestral call we all have to weave our lives together in revolutionary life. Ashe and amen.
Thank you to our brothers, sisters, siblings in faith and community. Thank you for those beautiful words and for the beautiful prayers. For the next portion of our program, we want to turn our minds to action. What can we do at the local, state, and national level to make the next 20 years impactful, to continue this legacy? Solidarity and caring for one another in a time of crisis is only half the battle. How we show up for one another to make change matters, and it matters the most. Now we'll hear from Mesa Mayor John Giles on the strides his city has taken over the past 2 decades to really honor the Sodhi family and this community's legacy. Before we bring him on stage, I also want to recognize some of our elected officials who weren't able to be with us tonight. Arizona's 2 senators, Kristen Sinema and Mark Kelly, who are required to remain in Washington, D.C. right now, but they have sent Inder Gunala and Denise Lopez to represent their offices. Thank you. And finally, with respect to action, I want to call your attention to the small packets of seeds that are in your programs. If you open your programs, sorry, here. If you didn't get one, please make sure to stop at that and grab one on your way out. Earlier today, we heard from Valerie very beautifully that what Balbir Ankolji was doing was planting flowers right there. And these are the seeds we want you to take home to remember that and plant them in your own yards. He was doing his best to bring light into the world darkened by fear and terror. Our hope for all of you with these packets of seeds is that you can take them home, write a prayer or hope on them, and then plant them away with his memory. With that in mind, please join me in welcoming to the stage Mayor John Giles. Thank you.
I don't know that any of us expected to be as moved and as touched by what we were experiencing tonight as I have been. So excited to be here with many of my fellow Mayor Duff, Councilmember David Luna, Councilmember Mark, Councilmember Julie Spilsbury. I'm also honored that we have with former Mayor Keno Hawker. Keno was ago when this event occurred. I spoke with Keno for a few moments just a few minutes ago, and he couldn't help but share with me the very sincere love and admiration that he has for the Sodhi family and for the Sikh community, and the admiration that he developed in ministering to them during this terrible tragedy 20 years ago. Last year, we all reflect on what we were doing 20 years ago. And in my case, I had recently completed serving on our city council with Mayor Hawker, and I had just begun serving on the board of the Arizona Interfaith Movement. And so when this event occurred, I was very involved and very mindful of the impact that this had on our community, but also in particular how it resonated in the faith community. And I was very blessed to be a part of that response and to have developed a relationship with the Sikh community and with the Sodhi family that I treasure and I value to this day. 20 years is obviously a very significant anniversary, and we want to, as a community, again, acknowledge the tremendous example of love and empathy that the Sodhi family sets in our community every day. Last year, I recall that we honored this event by planting a tree with the Sikh community in one of our parks. I thought that was a very poignant and powerful. In honor of Mr. Sodhi's memory, today is a reminder and a call to action to continue to fight against discrimination and to work together towards unity and understanding. We were all touched by Valerie's invitation to see Balbir Singh Sodhi tonight. I couldn't help but feel his presence and the tremendous irony and injustice that resulted in a man that was so peaceful, a man who was so kind, and from a family and a community that values peace above all else. For him to be called upon to be the sacrifice, again, terribly unjust, ununderstandable. But as I sat and accepted Valerie's invitation to see Balbir, I felt his presence, and I felt that he would be comforted and he would be pleased with the ripple effect that has occurred over the last 20 years. As I've had the pleasure to occasionally participate in these events, it's become obvious to me that the momentum and the significance of this horrible event is magnified every year in a positive way. And among the faith community and among the broader community in our city, this has become a very much of a unifying event, and much good, much coming together, standing has been the result of these events. In the years following 9/11, and even today, our country grapples with fear and divisiveness. But again, I'd invite you to look around you. Please take a mental picture of what we're experiencing here right now today as brothers and sisters in this shared human family. This is a reminder that when we come from a place of love and when we focus on the things we share, we create space for understanding. I've been invited to talk about a call to action and what are we going to do as a community to try to steer ourselves and our community in a better direction. As a local community leader, I know I strive to be guided by ideals of compassion and kindness and understanding. And I truly think that describes my community. That describes the core values of this community, and that we are one that celebrates our differences. This year has been a significant one for this community. We finally, after years of working on it, have adopted a non-discrimination ordinance in our city. And I credit the spirit that has motivated to do that absolutely in part to the events of 9/11 and our community's response to that. Again, we are a city where we want every resident and every visitor and every business to know that we are inclusive, that it is our diversity that makes us great as individuals and as a community as well. But we still have work to do. And we have to continue asking ourselves, what steps can we take individually and as families and as communities to honor the memory of Balbir Singh Sodhi and the many like him that have been sacrificed senselessly in order to provoke us to make this a better world. Gatherings like this give me great hope that we're moving in the right direction. And I love the Sikh tradition of the Langar. In a moment, when we're all going to follow this tradition and we're going to sit at the same level, all castes, all ethnicities, all religions will be the same. And we'll break bread as brothers and sisters in the great human family. That's a tradition that I hope we can celebrate many times over in our community, in our faith communities and in our communities as a whole. Today, in a radical act against discrimination, I would challenge all of us to be living tributes to compassion, kindness, and understanding, and in loving memory of Mr. Sodhi and in the spirit of the amazing Sodhi family. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for honoring our community by your presence. And again, we appreciate your commitment to us. We appreciate the efforts that you make to make us better people. And I promise you that we share that commitment to a more just world and to honoring the memory of Balbir Singh Sodhi. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you for those incredible words and for recognizing our local officials who are with us here today and our former mayor. I really appreciate that. We're almost nearing the end of our program, so bear with us for a few. I know we've just mentioned Langar, and I know we're getting itchy for a moment for us to all come together and reflect, but just a couple of more minutes before we get there. I've been reflecting on how far our communities have come since 9/11, from reactive work to proactive work, from overwhelming negative images in the press to fighting for visibility and inclusion in classrooms, and from struggling to make our voices heard and to having meetings with local officials. Look at how far we've come. Again, like, take a look around us. Look at how far we've come. I want to take a moment to recognize that, like the Sikh Coalition, many other organizations, Sikh organizations and institutions became stronger and grew out of this aftermath. And we now live in a world, and I again want to say thank you to Balbir Uncle G's family, to all of you here today. We are stronger because of your family, so thank you. Before I ask Balbir Uncle's granddaughter, Ashwin Sodhi, to speak on behalf of her family and all the grandkids, who are incredible, and Ranaji to close out tonight's event, I want to thank all of you for attending today in the heat, in this moment to be together. And for those watching from home, thank you. The solidarity that you all have shown tonight towards the Sikh community is incredible, and to the Sodhi family in particular. I am glad that we can be here together to honor the past and recognize all those who have been lost and harmed along the way, while also drawing strength from one another. And using that strength, and I really mean this, I hope we can all take that strength away and turn it into action every single day hereafter. I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to thank a few specific individuals without whom tonight would not be possible. First, gratitude to the entire Sodhi family who are literally right now setting up everything else. And to Ranaji for your leadership, thank you. We are grateful to Dr. Jaswant Sachdev, Uncle Ji, for his thoughtful guidance in planning today, to the Global Sikh Alliance and Jasjit Virji, as well as the Arizona Interfaith Movement for all of their support in making this event happen. Valerie, to you and your team at Revolutionary Love Project, thank you for helping recruit incredible speakers, for amplifying today, and for really being a thoughtful partner in planning. I also want to thank Shai Khan and Burmeet Bergava. I do not see you right now because you're probably working. There you go. This would not be able to have happened without you, and for all of the work that you and your team have done. Thank you. We have stayed cool tonight because of you all. So we really do appreciate that. And thank you to the team of Sevadars, to the family, friends of the Sodhi family who set everything up for now and for later this evening. And to the Phoenix Boys Choir, who have of the last 20 years and the many, many decades before that. But thank you for sharing your wise words with us all today. It really meant a lot. After our final speakers, we will invite you to proceed toward the table next to the memorial from Balbir Uncle's family. Apologies. From Balbir Uncle's family and the volunteers. You can place the candle along with flowers or anything else at the memorial site and then proceed around the stage to pick up langar. And now I'm humbled and honored to invite the Sodhi family, starting with Ashwin Sodhi, to say a few, Balbir Singh's granddaughter, to say a few words, and then Rana Singh Sodhi.
Guru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Ashwin Sodhi. I'm 18 years old and I'm the granddaughter of Balbir Singh Sodhi. Before I was born, my family came here to start a new life. My grandfather and this gas station were the foundation of that effort. I credit him with our family's success in this country, and it breaks my heart that he did not live longer to see how we have flourished from what he provided. I know he would be incredibly proud of all of us. Despite his successes, however, my grandfather's legacy is something much bigger. He was a great man, known and remembered for loving everyone throughout his life around him. It is a testament to the richness of his life that even now, 20 years after his passing, I still hear new stories about his kindness and his generosity every year, from how he welcomed every child in his store to his service at the Gurdwara. Though I did not have the privilege or the benefit of knowing him, I feel like I do, through the memories of all those who loved him so much. Tonight is a little bit different for me because I'm not usually one to speak. I most often spend this evening doing my best to help out my grandmother and all the members of my family, making sure that everyone remembers to breathe, to eat, and to take care of themselves in the midst of all this grief. But I'm glad to be on stage tonight to thank all of you for joining us. Whether you knew my grandfather personally, you heard stories of him, or have learned about his life and his death for the first time this week, I thank you for joining my family in solidarity, and more simply, for listening and hearing our story. It means so much that we are all able to make this small memorial to my grandfather about something bigger. Growing up in the shadow of 9/11 was very confusing for my generation. I know what happened, and I've seen videos in school, but it's strange to be taught something as history when the members of my family and my community have experienced its effects firsthand. We've experienced the racism, the discrimination, the we've experienced our loved ones who were killed, hurt, and discriminated against in the weeks, months, and the years after 9/11. Yet we're all here tonight, not just to remember those we've lost, but to celebrate the ways that we found to stand together and to push for a better world. As we conclude this evening's program, I want to ask all of you to please honor my grandfather in a simple way. We've heard from state and national level leaders and elected or appointed officials about the large scale policy changes we have to keep making in order to keep our society safe from harm. That work is important, but I also recognize that it can seem unbearably big. And sometimes, especially in the face of hate, it is difficult to feel like you can make a change on your own. But you can honor my grandfather on a personal level through small acts of kindness, a donation to a neighbor in need, an hour at a community service project, or even giving a scared and frightened child a piece of candy. Those little things will help to keep his memory alive, and I know they would make him smile. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. To conclude our program, please welcome to the stage my uncle, Rana Singh Sodhi. Thank you.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ For 20 years I've been working to telling my brother's story. Each year all my family, friend, we get together here and celebrating his life and his legacy together, remembering him. This year, I feel like it's special because elected officer and family and friend get together and celebrating not only my brother life, I think we celebrating all the victim of 9/11 and all the victim of hate crimes victim today. And I think that's the best way to honor my brother legacy and all the family of the hate crime victims and the 9/11 victims to get together and show the unity and the love to each other, have a better community. Today, you help me to remember what I learned in last 20 years from all of you. The love, unity, togetherness, and that's the only way we can combat the hate. And I had a hope, I had a dream. We're gonna have a this world will be hate-free one day. And with your help, with our new generation help, I think everything is possible. And I hope my dream will be succeeded one day. I remember 2 days before my brother death, and he wanted to have a press conference to educate other people about Sikh, about the turban, about the beard. And 2 days later, he was taken away from my family, taken away from our community. But I feel like his life, his death, is become a beacon of light to awareness. That's the way I feel like, his life touched, his death touched so many people. And I feel like he gave me the job to be done in my life to educate more people and save the innocent life. That's the way I feel it. And he give to me, because when we are sitting with in our temple 2 days before his death in the meeting, and he want to save the innocent people, to protect the innocent people with the hate. And today I would like to so much thankful to special city of Mesa and the 20-year back, Mayor Kino Hacker and the community in local, they open their arm and open their heart. And today Mayor come, the city council come, and it show us, and we see it's give the brighter future with the support from the local community leadership and all the national and the White House. Erica come to give the message from the Joe Biden, our president, is and our local governor Doug Ducey. That's amazing, and those kind of love and support make myself, make my family, make my community be proud, be standing here today with you after 20 years. And at the end, I think if we all today committed to each other, how we can love, understand, respect your neighbor, we can make this neighborhood, this country, and this world hate-free. I think the love has so much power. The Valerie talk about revolutionary love. I think if everybody understand that, and this world is going to be look like a heaven though. The heaven is here with us, but there's a lot of ignorance in our community, in our own people. We can educate through love to understanding and respecting to each other. At the end, I would like to thank you again from bottom of my heart, all of you to come and join, and especially this event is really touched my heart. It's not possible without the Sikh collusion leadership and all their volunteer. It's head of I have so much love. You done this event amazingly done that. And I would like to thank you, all the media. Without you, I think our message, our love can reach the people who are ignorant through you. And I hope in this world, in this nation, nobody can lose loved one with hate. It's very painful. At the end, I would like to Phoenix Boy Culture to come out, performance their songs. And after that, I would like to invite all of you to follow my family to be to the memorial to put the candle and flower to there. After that, I humbly request everyone to be share the meal with my family, with my Sikh community, to be at the end of that program. We have Indian food, and we have a, if somebody want to have a different, not Indian food. And I really appreciate, please don't go without eat. And thank you so much again to come and join us. I'd like to the Phoenix Boy Church to come to the stage, please.
Thank you, Ramji. And while the Phoenix Boys Choir, while the Phoenix Boy Choir sets up, just again a gentle reminder that before we come up and light the candles, we're actually going to change the flag. The family wants to change the flag first. So I will just bring everyone's attention, and we'll follow the family to lighting the candle after we've changed the flag. So bear with us for a few more minutes, and thank you to the Phoenix Boys Choir.
behalf of the Phoenix Boys Choir, thank you so much for this wonderful, beautiful event to honor the Sodhi family, Balbir Sodhi. This is just a great honor for us to share our voices in song in hopes of bringing more beauty to the world and more beauty in Arizona, especially in this community. So thank you for the invitation, Sodhi family. We really appreciate you all. Thank you. We have one final piece with you that's titled perfectly for tonight, Hymn to Freedom.
Thank you. Thank you to the Phoenix Boys Choir. Thank you. Thank you. For the final portion of today's evening, I'd like to bring Balbir Singh Sodhi's grandchildren up to the stage so that they can lead on the flag changing, and then we will follow the family in lighting the candles to the memorial.
please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And all the grandkids, Balbir Singh Sodhi uncle's family, please, Rana Virji, and all the family begin with the candle lighting ceremony, and then we will ask everyone to join. Please, Congressman, please join the family. Go, go, go.